Hello, everyone. I know we are in a different location this week, yes. And I know you're wondering, where in the world are we right now, Danze? I am doing Mindfully Aligned this week live from my hotel room. I am currently, when I'm recording this, in LA for Grammy week. This is technically my first business trip, so you can tell I'm excited. I am now taking Mindfully Aligned on the road with me. Of course, you guys are my journal, my diary, so of course I brought you guys with me. And yeah, we are doing Mindfully Aligned live from my first business trip. So welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here with me. I'm out here for 8 days, which is kind of a long time to me. There are definitely some takeaways from this trip, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Let's just get into that. For some background, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I work in the music industry as a digital marketer. I love what I do. I started as an intern in 2022 when I was in college. I graduated this year, and now I am a coordinator at Capital Music Group, and I love it. And so I'm based in New York, and this week we flew out to LA. You know, as an LA-based company, the rest of our team, most of our team is out in LA, and so this week I really got to meet everyone that I've been working with virtually for the last few months. And so that has been, yes, super awesome, but also a little bit nerve-wracking because I'm a girl with anxiety. When it comes to meeting your colleagues, meeting your coworkers, it's all about a first impression, especially in the music industry. It is very mixy, it's an industry that's all about your network. You know, I can work my butt off, but I think that one thing I always felt a little insecure about was my ability to be social. Listen, guys, I'm an Aquarius, guilty as charged, and anyone who's friends with me will tell you I very much fit the bill. I'm introverted, I'm quiet. Yes, I know I have a podcast where I yap for like 15 minutes, but in real life, I'm a little bit more quiet. In fact, the reason why I started the podcast was so I had an outlet to express the thoughts that I had and just wasn't sharing. I'm gonna be honest, I think that by having the podcast and sitting down and talking every week, it has like really forced me to step up my game when it comes to communication and presenting myself to other people instead of closing myself off. That's just where I'm at with it. You know, to go out and meet everyone at your company for the first time that you're working with, and like they already know you, but they don't know you. It was a lot of pressure I put on myself. And again, you know, as an ambitious person who really cares about what's going on at work and the impressions that I make, you know, I really cared about it, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. But at the same time, I'm also an introvert, and so it's almost like I had to really like grapple with that leading up to this trip and then on the trip. I just kind of want to talk about working through anxiety or anxious moments where you really do in fact want to put yourself out there, but you might find it a little harder to, because I know it's not just me out there who feels this way. I know a lot of us do, and sometimes anxiety can be your biggest enemy. Sometimes it can hold you back from the things you want to do. And I did not want that to be the case, because again, I cared about making a good impression. So I was like, Danze, you got to figure out how to make this work. So one of the first things that I've been thinking, you know, I really have to overcome is the imposter syndrome. That's one of the worst things. It's one of the most crippling things. If you let it get out of control, naturally, that's just something that's playing in my brain. Sometimes it's like the negative thoughts of like, how are you here right now? You don't deserve to be here. You know, I get to meet so many really cool people, so many successful people, and I get to learn from them every day. It's almost crazy to me because I'm like, how do I get to be here? Like that's something that, you know, the imposter syndrome, it really tries to rob me of just feeling good about that, and it just takes away from that, and it's not fair. And you know, it also like kind of robs your confidence in a way, because if you're walking around the office and you feel like you secretly don't deserve to be there, you reflect that in how you carry yourself. You reflect that in how you speak. I did not want to be completely timid and unconfident. I wanted to get in there, show who I am, because again, I only have a week here. So I'm like, all right, I don't have a lot of time to just come out of my shell the way I normally would just take my time to come out of my shell. I'm like, all right, Adanze, if you have only a week, you better make this week count. And so I was like, all right, the imposter syndrome, girl, you gotta go. So I had a lot of conversations with myself about how to kind of get rid of that. One thing I remembered is my boss saying to me that the imposter syndrome never goes away. And I remember even when I was in college, for my program, we took like a little field trip to Universal Music in Philly, and we had a panel discussion with a lot of really inspiring women who work there, and they said to us, like, listen, the imposter syndrome never goes away. Men, women, successful people all alike have all said the imposter syndrome never goes away. So I'm like, all right, if that's the case, I have to stop being so obsessed with trying to shoo it away, because listen, it's here to stay. So instead, I have to kind of just let it be. If you guys watched the radical acceptance video, it talked a lot about just kind of accepting your feelings, because when you're no longer at war with those thoughts and feelings, they no longer rule you. So instead of just being mad at myself for feeling like I don't deserve to be here, I'm like, you know what? That's just like a little voice that exists. It's just here. And I remembered, low key, everyone has that. It's just a matter of how loud that voice is in your mind. The less attention I pay to it, the quieter it gets. By like day 2, day 3, I was feeling good. I was like, you know what? I am supposed to be here. That's why I'm here. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't supposed to be. And you know what? Everyone is here for a reason. So I got to own it. I was given this spot. I got to do something with it. And so I'm really happy that I was able to confidently speak up instead of worrying, it's only my second day out here. Like, these people don't really know me. Like, and I'm new to the team. What right do I have to? No, I'm here and I'm part of the team, and I'm going to speak up and say what I got to say, show them what I'm thinking. And guess what? People love that. People want to hear your ideas. I think it actually comes off better than to just be that person who isn't contributing anything. I was like, you know what? I do have stuff to say, so why am I going to trap that in my mind because I feel like I don't deserve to speak, or I don't deserve to be here, or I don't deserve to take up space. I deserve that. That's why I'm here. So I owe it to myself to do that. Just because I might feel a little uncomfortable at first, or like I'm undeserving at first, it's not the case. I realize that that's imposter syndrome is kind of a demon everyone struggles with. And I think because I know that, even the people I look up to most deal with it, I'm like, all right, it's not so crazy that I feel this way. And if anything, I can just keep chugging along anyway. The next thing for me that I know is a big struggle is worrying about like appearance or how you come off, or just coming off as perfect. I am definitely a perfectionist. Not like in a way that's helpful, not like in a way where like I'm a perfectionist in how clean my room is. Definitely not. In fact, I wish it was that way. It's not. It's just, I'm just a perfectionist in terms of like, I have to say the right thing. I have to make the right gestures. Everything needs to be right. If I come off the wrong way, that is the worst thing ever. If my anxiety is like in a bad place, like that's kind of how I think. Doesn't that just sound so restrictive? Like it's just like so harsh and so like, what? Like whatever happened to being a human? Like whatever happened to like just making a mistake and being able to laugh at yourself? When I am like forcing myself to be so perfect or come off so perfect to new people, it makes me just stiff and awkward, and like it kind of just backfires. It's counterproductive. One thing I said, I was like, you know what, Adanze, why don't I just skip to the part where and it's crazy that this had to be like something I tell myself to do. It's like, hey, Danze, why don't you try being normal? Like, instead of making the goal trying to be perfect, what if you made the goal to just be as relaxed as possible? What if you decided to be the person who knows what they're talking about, is highly driven, but is also cool as a cucumber and is comfortable in her space and comfortable in her position? I'm like, okay, I could do that, because it's like, okay, if people meet me, they're not meeting this stiff girl who's trying to act like a robot. Hi, my name is Adanze. No, they're meeting a girl who seems confident and is not stressing herself out about how she greets you and is not anxiously thinking about it 15 minutes later. I was tired of being in that rat race. If I only have a week here, which like it feels like a long time, but it also isn't at the same time, I don't want to waste time like anxiously overthinking every single interaction I have with somebody. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to come off weird, and I think that by being so hard on myself, it makes me come off as weird. So let me just drop the act. And I was like, let me just be cool. This is gonna sound like a silly example, but the other day I wore this cardigan. It was like really cute. It's like a knitted cardigan that's like blue and has some like flowers knitted onto it. And I got so many compliments on it, right? First off, I don't really like wearing patterns. I feel like they call too much attention. But I do love cardigans, so I was like, Danze, just wear this and like, just wear this. And I was scared that by wearing the cardigan, I looked like kind of childish. And that goes into my imposter syndrome. I'm like, all right, they're going to think I'm like just some little kid working here. And she's like super immature and just like, ew, like, no, that's like so cringy. I look like a kid. Like, but I was like, but this sweater is cute. That's when I was like, all right, Danze, sometimes you just got to say, F it, I'm doing it. Stick with me. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wear this cardigan and I don't care if I look like a little kid. I even had my hair in 2 little space buns because it was so humid that day and I had to do what I had to do. So I was like, all right, I know I look like I'm 5, but here I go to work. That was honestly exposure therapy. Instead of just being overly perfectionist with, you know, what I looked like that day or what I thought I was conveying that day, I was like, I'm gonna go. I know I look cute. So let me not overthink it. I'm going to do it. And dude, I got so many compliments the entire day on this sweater. And I was like, whoa, like people actually really like this. Like instead of me trying to limit myself and look boring and come off how I think professional adults need to dress, I was like, I chose something that was like cute to me. And people actually liked it a lot. And it started so many conversations in the office. And I was like, wow, Danze, like, you see what happens when you kind of go off script a little bit? Like, this is what happens when you let loose on yourself and you just kind of go on a whim. Like, it actually winds up returning the favor for you. Like, I was like, that's kind of crazy. And so I decided to take it a step further. Instead of being the quiet girl who doesn't say much, instead of like people saying, oh, I like your sweater. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Thanks. Oh, thanks so much. And not knowing what to say next, I felt like I always was the person who didn't know what to say next. I was like, let me take this a step further. Because remember, I was saying, you know, my challenge for the week is to come off as natural and relaxed as possible. So I was like, let me say something a little honest I would never say. And I was like, thank you. You like the sweater? I actually never really wear like patterned clothing at all. So like, this is kind of a lot for me right now. I really took a chance on this, you know? Bro, I'm not kidding. I don't know if this makes me sound like weird or anything. I don't even care, but like I don't talk about like my thoughts like that. You know what I mean? Like that's not something I would normally say. Usually I would say like, thank you, thanks so much, and keep it pushing. I would never like share any part of me that might be weak or insecure or too human. But I was like, you know what, Dante, let's just be relaxed. And when I said that, people were like, oh my God, no, like I actually love that, like blah, blah, blah. Like it opened up a wider conversation. I'm trying to get into my cardigan era. Like, I love that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like having all these conversations with people I usually would be like hi and bye to if I let myself just be so restricted, you know, by my shyness. And I was like, okay, wow, Dante, this is actually a lot easier than I thought. Like, instead of just overly filtering everything I say and everything I do, trying to curate this perfect image, all I need to do is just like be human. Like, just be human and stop forcing myself to be this perfect robot. I'm not a robot. Like, people actually resonate with that more because, again, we're all just people. So when I said that, people were like, oh my gosh, really? Like, I actually, you know, it turned into a wider thing because that's just like such a human thing to say. Like, oh, I don't even like patterns. So I really took a chance on the sweater. It's something that's so small, but it made me feel really good. And like, I really was making progress because I pushed myself to do something I don't normally do, wear something I don't normally wear. Because like I said in that other episode, you know, I'm trying to experiment with my clothes a little bit here. So I really went out on a whim. It started conversation, and then I took it further. I led the conversation in a way that I don't normally do. Even if it might have felt uncomfortable at first, I actually walked away feeling so proud of myself. Like, you know what, I really did that. As an ambitious girl, I know there are a lot of ambitious women out there who also may struggle with shyness. And we might feel like that's something that's limiting us, but it's like, it doesn't have to. The same way we can put our minds to overcome something and take on a challenge by the horns and dominate it, the same way I can do that with shyness and being introverted. At the end of the day, I still am an introvert. You know, I won't force myself to completely open up to strangers, but I can practice being more warm, inviting, and friendly and conversational. And you know, the more you practice anything, the better you get at it. So I was like, you know what? This is my challenge for the week. And it's honestly been so incredibly fruitful. I feel like, you know, I still have a few days left in the trip. I honestly feel like I've grown so much in terms of like putting myself out there. And, you know, that's something I definitely want to refine more. And so I'm glad that I can come back from this trip and keep that going, knowing that, Danze, when you put yourself out there, when you try to say something that is completely honest or do something that is authentic to who you are, it doesn't push people away, it doesn't backfire. It actually makes people more interested, and who doesn't want someone who's authentic and honest? So yeah, I hope I can encourage you guys by sharing how that worked out for me this week. I hope that if you also struggle with anxiety or forcing yourself to be perfect or imposter syndrome or any of that, I hope that this shows you that by just relaxing a little bit, let those shoulders down, lay off on the self-criticalness for a second and be a human. People love that. And why do you want to rob yourself of the amazing, natural flowing conversations that can come from you just being a human? So yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts for the week. It's been a really great time having them put a face to my name or a name to my face, whatever, vice versa, you get it. I just feel so grateful also that I have been able to travel for work. Traveling for work is something that I really looked forward to about my career. When I decided that I wanted to work in the music industry, I always really looked forward to traveling for work and all that comes with it. And honestly, I really love what I do, and I really love all the things that come with what I do. Now that I have this opportunity to travel for work for the first time, I'm like, Danze, don't squander that. This is a special moment for me. Why should I ruin it by restricting myself with anxiety and imposter syndrome and forcing myself to be perfect and putting all this unnecessary tension on myself? No, I'm gonna put myself out there, and I'm gonna walk away from this with no regrets and proud of myself. So that is what I did. Yeah, I'm really happy about it. And thanks for coming along with me and joining me on this trip. I hope you guys like being on the road with me. We might do it more. Stay tuned. So yeah, those are my thoughts. And now it is time for the song of the week. This week's song of the week is Rockets by Lion Babe. It's a great song because, it's all about you're taking this to the moon. You are going all the way. The sky's the limit. Actually, there is no limit. It's just a great vibe. But beyond that, this song has a bit of a deeper meaning for me. This song reminds me of a very pivotal, crucial time in my life that I've actually been thinking about a lot lately. In fact, it's the reason why I'm even here. My junior year in high school, I really spent that time fully deciding what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And by deciding, I mean I came up with a fully hashed 15-year plan of how I was going to make this happen. I came up with a plan for my life, and I realized what I wanted to do, and it became clear as day to me. I was just very honed in on that. I said I need to start lining myself up to make this happen. While I was in my hotel room this week, getting ready for work, getting all excited, this song came on my shuffle. It took me back to that moment because I used to listen to this song during that time. It reminded me of when I used to dream about this and when I was planning for this and manifesting this. That song coming on randomly, it just kind of all brought it full circle. Speaking of manifestation, by the way, guys, I talked more about my journey of how I got here in the manifestation episode. So if you haven't checked it out already, be sure to check it out. It's one of my favorite episodes of the podcast. But yeah, it just took me back to that moment where I was manifesting without even realizing it. It made me that much more grateful for this moment and where I am now. And that's why I'm so glad that I didn't squander it by just being anxious and closing myself off to people the whole time. Again, that's not to say I wasn't anxious at all. I definitely was. I have anxiety. It's gonna happen. But the goal of the trip was to control it and still have fun and still put myself out there. And I'm so glad I did because 16, 17-year-old Danze would be so proud. And I want you guys to know you guys are all rockets. We're going to the moon. Don't let your anxiety or your imposter syndrome, your perfectionism, don't let that slow you down. You're too powerful and you're too important for that. Yeah, those are basically my thoughts for the episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys so much for coming along on this cool new step in or new chapter in my life. You guys have been here with me since I graduated, since before I graduated, through graduation to now, corporate life, and it's gonna continue to grow. I'm not stopping this. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what moment in this episode resonated with you most. And be sure to connect with me on the Mindfully Aligned podcast Instagram. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Bye.